Good morning, good morning, good morning. Jonathan Turner here on Inside the Game. Riding solo this morning as Nathan Wangler is doing other things here this morning. I think he's got baseball rolling here, I think, this afternoon, so he's going to be taking part in that. But I'm excited to be here solo. I might have John Natale step back in here today. We'll let you know about that. But welcome back to Inside the Game, episode number 65. And a lot of Open Cup games last night. We'll get into that here a little bit this morning. We'll take your your comments as we do every single morning. For those of you, the coffee firm, I do have my coffee this morning from a different Keurig here at home. I'm in my home right now, not at the studio. Trying to take some of the day off, but take a day off nonetheless. But we're excited to have you here and being a part of this. And if it's your first time stopping by, hit that subscribe button, like us, share this with your friends and family. We are live right now on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Roku. So, but yeah, and if you see behind me right here, that's my wife has this new collection now of Toy Story toys, collection of a number of things. She's into building Legos. I've been getting her Lego flowers and things like that. So if I ever come back from home again, you'll start to see those behind me here as well. But yeah, a lot happened last night. We'll get, like I said, get into the conversation about the U.S. Open Cup. We'll get into the conversation about the matches here tonight. I might even make my way to one here locally. I do have John Natale. He is going to be joining us now, it looks like, and there he is. Let's bring you in, John. Maybe it's because, oh, here we go. There we go. Are you there? Nope, can't hear you. It's all good, man. It's all good. I see Solo up. He just, bring him back in here. Are you good? Oh, we'll keep working it out while we're waiting for John to hop in. But, yeah, so a lot of really cool things happening in the world of soccer. Like I said, we'll get into that. Well, when John's able to hop on, we'll talk about those matchups from last night. Want to remind everybody that, we talked about this a little bit yesterday as well in regards to, the share your story, my game, my story. And wanted to, again, put this graphic up on the screen. My game, my story, right? This is, this is something that is something we started here recently. It'll be fully available here for everybody to start sharing their story here later this week. My goal is to have it fully functional by Thursday and tomorrow. And but again, it's sharing your story. It is about sharing your love of the game, sharing your love of why you are participating in the game, and everybody's story is unique. So make sure you do check that out here on our website in the coming days. Let's see if we can get John here now to hop in. And there we are. Are you there, John?
Are we good now?
I can hear you.
There we
Can you hear
go.
me?
Yes, I can.
Well, good morning, my friend.
You,
Is it not
you
good?
and I will have quite the discussion about why I am 6 minutes late.
Okay.
And
like right now, or
oh no, we'll get through this. I apologize to you, apologize to Nate, I apologize to everybody for being 6 minutes late. But John, when you hear the story, what's the anagram that the kids use now? Is it nowadays WTF? I think is the one.
I think it's bruh.
Or fire, bruh. Well, what I mean, if it's a bruh, I mean it. I'm stunned. It's just one of those things. I'm stunned, and you can see that a little bit of what is to come up. But let's talk soccer. Let's have a good time. I apologize, but we will connect after this, and I will give you the lowdown on the dirty. And when I say dirty, I'm talking Zinedine Zidane times 1350, 1375.
Wow.
So we'll just ride with it with that.
Well, already then. Well, It is Wednesday. It's hump day, middle of the week. And last night I had a chance to tune into my wife and I. We got home. So my son had his first track meet yesterday. We talked
Yeah,
about
how'd that
this,
go?
right? And
The high jump, right?
yeah. I mean, God love my son, man. He has no problem walking around in shorts in 43-degree weather, and for the better part of 2.5 hours, just chilling with his buddies. It's like, here we are, like about halfway. So my parents came to watch. My kids, we were all there as a family to support him. When we first got there, he was already doing the high jump thing, already doing it. And now this isn't like the high jump where you're getting that bar and you're trying to run.
No,
We
that's the
talked
pole
about
vault.
it.
The high jump is you
Yeah,
start,
yeah,
so
yep.
it's
And you
a
make that
elevated
angle
bar,
run. Yeah,
probably 7 feet. You run around, you try to jump over with your head first.
yep. So he was doing that, and already, so there wasn't like a whole bunch of like lead up to it. There's no like announcements like, hey, now jumping is Nathan. So you don't know. You just kind of hoping you're catching it when there's a bunch of other kids, and they're all wearing hoodies, and they're all wearing like combination of stuff to keep them warm. So we're just trying to. It's like finding where's Waldo. It's like where is in this mix of kids, right? And my parents get in there. My parents are in their 70s, so they show up. God love them. They were
Are your
there, and they're
parents
like,
are your parents from around the area that actually
yeah,
drive in for
yeah,
this?
yeah. They're around the area. They live about
Okay.
10 minutes from us, so they
All
roll
right.
in. My dad immediately loved my dad. Immediately starts complaining about how cold it is. This is the same guy that will go golf at 8 o'clock in the morning when it's 43 degrees outside. So and spend 20 hours out in the golf course, but. It's, you know, but help 20 minutes outside, man, at a track meet. He's done. I'm out.
None of this. This is too much.
But
Where are my sticks?
yeah, right. So we're sitting there, and we're just watching a whole bunch of other kids do stuff, and watching my son, chatty Cathy with all his buddies, for 2.5 hours. I went in the car at some point. My feet started getting numb. I said, I'm gonna go watch this from the car. My wife and daughter Brianna were like, we're gonna stick it out here. They stuck out for as long as they could until their feet went numb, and then they made their way into the car as well, where we watched the rest of the event, from our car. Um, when I say watch the rest of the event, you're just watching other kids do this, right? Watch, and I guess you can only like participate in like 3 events, like that's like the max, I guess, that you could participate in. Because I'm like, why wouldn't you just want to do everything? I mean, just go do everything. I mean, because when he came to us, I want to do track. He plays football, and he wanted to get better at running. So when we're out there seeing him do the high jump, he did the long jump too, by the way. Did the long jump too. All right. So those are the only 2 events he participated in yesterday. But so no running at all. I'm like, are you gonna run? He's like, I don't know, maybe. All right, man. All right. Well, could you do us a favor? And he's like, what? Can you pick like the first 3 events? But he's like, Dad, those are like the longest runs. Those are like the mile. I don't want to do those runs. So, I don't know. I don't know what to make of it, man. So, this is why I didn't participate in track, John. Is this right here? Because
Well, you had mentioned that yesterday morning. It's like with cross country, I mean, you can go on scenic routes. It's a while. You go at your own pace or whatever. But when on a track, you're going in the same spot. Your destination is really the spot where you started from, just going around in a circle. It's the B version of NASCAR at a much slower pace, a little less laps, not as much bumping and grinding, not as much bumping and grinding coming around turn 4 down the back stretch. See if you're going to take the Brickyard 400 or not. But long story short for me is that I did the Horizon League Track and Field Championships at Purdue Fort Wayne at the beginning of March. And I mean, as a PA announcer, how do you PA announce the 5,000 meter? Well, here they come again for the 21st time. 22nd time. Now this person is only 12 seconds behind that person.
Yeah.
I get it.
It's I would say it's mind-boggling to me, but it definitely I do struggle. with it. And it's just like my daughter, she swims, right? The same thing. You're going. I mean, most of the events I watched growing up as a kid or I go to now as an adult are ones in which it's in a full team environment and everybody is participating. Even if on the field of play, there might be substitutions and things like that, but it's a team environment, so a lot's happening in front of you. Um, there are these like breaks, and then you don't your kid just do 3 or 4 events, and then they're done. So it could be like they're in the first 2 events, and then nothing for 2 hours, and then there's an event at the end, and you're like, okay, so it's I was telling this as a joke to my daughter Brianna yesterday. I'm like, man, they should get like those fathead, but like full on fathead like, things for adults, and in them they should actually have like a camera that you can in the camera, like in the actual head of that fathead, that a parent could be like, it'd be like fan view, right, for a parent, right? So they can just stick it in the stands. They can sit at home, watch their kid. It moves around, you know,
Did Major League Baseball do that during COVID? Didn't they?
But not with
like
cameras. But not with cameras. I don't think. I think.
No, but I mean, it was hilarious how you could buy a cardboard cutout for some charity and then stick it in the seats. You'd see like
do the
dogs,
same thing, but every parent
Pokemon.
has their own view, and your kids up there going, "Hey, mom
I
and
mean-
dad, maybe you can have like a little wave, like a little robot wave or whatever."
See, now-
Like, "Hey, I'm here.
the next premier soccer group or premier media group entity is Movable Camera Fatheads, working with Dan Gilbert out of Detroit, which is where Fathead is located. You guys collaborate on this. I think you got a moneymaker.
I think a lot of parents will definitely invest in this because that it's either that or that bubble thing you have to get, right, that like that igloo looking thing you can now get at like Dick's Sporting Goods or one of those places where you can like you sit in this little like plastic bubble thing and you just keeps you out of the elements and everything. Those are pretty cool. But yeah, so that was fun. And then of course we want to go eat dinner right after. It's when we would go eat dinner. Right.
So when did when did it start? That was the one thing I never really understood, because when we and you probably remember this too, John, is that when we were playing sports, whether it be it's spring, so this is baseball season, right? There's probably baseball games going on. I know sometimes when we would practice or have a game, there was track going on, except our track was in the stadium. We were in the baseball field. When does this start? Is it start right after school thing? Do they get out early? Because track meets are long.
They are. This they promised us 2 hours. They didn't deliver on that. But so it started 4. So yesterday it started 4. It ended right around 6:40.
Okay, so not like too. I guess the length of a soccer match, really. You went the full 90. Match. You went the full 90 with 15 couple TV timeouts and commercial breaks. So okay, you're built for that.
Well, yeah. I mean, it just you want to, and this is why when as a former coach, I get it, right. I mean, I get it now more as a parent than I did as a coach, but it's something I always tell my parents in our preseason meetings and say, hey, I get it. I mean, if you're coming to a game, you're leaving work early, right? These 4:00 starts, that means you're leaving work early, right? And so you're showing up, you're going to go watch and root on your child and root on their team and hope that their team wins. And that's what you're doing, right? But no parent goes, I'm leaving work to go watch my kid ride the pine. Like I don't think there's a parent on earth that would say, I'm excited to go do that, right? They want their kid to participate. And that's why there's a lot of, regardless of whether or not they have this opportunity to go to the next level or not, or to excel, moms and dads just want to see their kid, playing. And I would tell parents in this parent meeting, I've even talked about this on the show before, like I would walk up to parents at this preseason meeting and say, hey, moms and dads, I get it. You want to see the 10 best players and your kid on the field. Like that's what you want, right, as a parent, right? And my job is to find the best 11, right? That's my job. And that doesn't always mean that your kid's in it, right? And so, but here's how your son or daughter can get more time on the field, right? Showing up to practice on time, right? Being everything that we ask of them that they do. And they give it everything that they have. I don't need the best players. I need the players who are going to go out there and work their butts off for the team and for themselves so that we can achieve our goals. If I see that in training, if I see that in games, then your kid will get minutes. It might not be the most minutes, but they'll get minutes. So sitting in the stands and watching your child, not running around and not participating, it's extremely difficult to watch and or to be a part of, even in a situation where it's not even like the coach is denying him something, right? This isn't like the coach was denying him. He even said, he's like, yeah, I have the opportunity. The coach picks one event for me, then I have the chance to pick two other events, and he chose to kind of go the whatever route. And maybe that's more like him just kind of testing the waters too, right? He's first time doing this. Do I really want to go out there and just put all these things in there and just start running around? I mean, that might be part of it too. There's not a lot of organization from what I saw in these events. It looked like it was like every man for themselves or every girl for themselves. It didn't really look like there was a method to this. Other than every time the starter shot off that pistol, but my wife got startled. So it's like every time.
Look over to Bianca. He's about to do it.
What the?
2,
Every time,
1,
man.
clap.
Every time.
No.
She'll even admit it. She was like, yeah, every time, man, got me. It's like, and it's coming too. but yeah, so it was a very interesting environment for sure. But so we got home last night after having dinner.
So where did you go? Where did you go to dinner? That was
Red Robin last night. Red Robin.
Okay,
Yeah.
A fine establishment.
Yum, right?
Oh my gosh, man! They still use that?
I don't know if they do or not, but I mean, it was. But we went to Red Robin, and I got this. They call it the Heat Wave burger. It's really good. No bun. Go no bun, and
okay.
It's hot. It's got that hot. Just whatever.
It's a spice. It sounds like it's spicy. Peppers, jalapenos. I'm sure pepper jack cheese.
Yep,
I'm sure.
Yep. Yeah, just they've had these ghost pepper burgers too. I like that spicy burger. Or I like a barbecue burger too. But yeah, I get the spicy. And anyways, we're sitting there eating dinner, and I'm getting emails from the MASL about this upcoming weekend, and because there's there are things that we're working on, hopefully with them to pull off some things for that, maybe on Sunday for the game in Chihuahua.
Oh, cool.
And if we end up doing something with that, we'll announce that. But that happened during that, and we get home, and it's like we're sitting on the couch, and the wife and I and our daughter Zoe's here, and we start to turn on Paramount Plus so that we can watch some of the Open games, and watched. I think we went through 3 or 4 of the games and just kind of watched through. They're all kind of in the 80th minute. They're kind of towards the latter end of the game, but yeah, I mean, I know that someone said they weren't happy, and I think yesterday in our comments someone said the coverage of the games on YouTube has been disappointing. We talk about this. I talked about it the other day on Monday about like quality, right? If we're talking about amateur soccer, right, and every team in the amateur space has varying degrees of experience and or resources to pull off a stream, right? Every one of them, and it's so varying, right? And some teams, which are on like USL League 2 or the more prominent leagues, because again, if you talk about what league is the one that probably from an amateur level is as close to professional as it can be, it's USL League 2.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It's USLW.
Yeah.
All the other leagues would be, as far as the professionalism aspect and what is expected is, and the expectations might be the same as USL League 2, but how that league is handled, I would put like the USL up here, and I would put everybody like right around, varying. I mean, all of them, and right. we deal with all of them. I mean, but the buy-in and to get into that league it's exponentially more expensive, right? If the buy-in's $75,000 to get into USL League 2, it's not the same thing for UPSL, right? There's only 140 teams in USL, 2. There's like 400 in UPSL, so. You can tell that's a significant difference
in different divisions in the UPSL, Premier, Division 1, Division 2, Academy. So yeah,
so and they all now happen to have one of those things. Midwest Premier League in there. They're all trying to hold themselves to a standard, but it's really difficult because when you start talking about having to invest that kind of money, like $70,000, $100,000 just to get into the league, that's an investment that you can't compare it. And so those teams will probably have a much better, option, for for streaming, the resources maybe associated with streaming these games. But if you're El Farolito, for example, or you're one of these teams that are out on the West Coast who play in the NPSL, they might not have those resources. And a lot of these games you're reliant on some local production company to pull this thing off, who may or may not have the experience to do things at a high level. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. It's a combination of things, and so I know that there was this conversation about that yesterday about the quality. I watched these games last night. Now, granted, these were all on Paramount Plus or Golazo, so these games are being handled in a different manner in the third round. That I believe I saw the 3 cameras. So you had a high main camera, you had a zoom, and then you had a field level camera. At least that seemed like that for every game I watched last night. So the broadcasting as a whole seemed pretty good. All the commentators are remote; they are not on site. I can tell you that right now. Not a single commentator was in a stadium last night. They were all being handled out of, my guess is out of Florida.
It is. It is.
And so that's where they all were. There's an Indy 11 game happening tonight, right?
Tonight.
Detroit CFC is happening tonight. Those games again, they might have more cameras. My guess is, though, because these games are being produced by US Open, and they're probably footing the bill for this, is my guess it'll be a 3-camera setup, and all their commentators will be in Florida. You will not hear Neil Rule calling the game here tonight. I guess I would imagine you're not going to hear him call the game.
And we will not hear Greg Regstraw.
Yeah, so that's obviously the difference, and so yeah, as these games go on, they will start to pick up production value, and the games will get easier to watch and things like that. Real quick, I want to get in Pete going. Good hump day.
Hi, Pete.
Back at you, Pete. He goes Red Robin Yum, and then Limitless Fries.
They're the bottomless steak fries.
Yeah.
You can buy those in your
Potato fries
grocer's
too.
freezer now. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
If you go to your French
Are they
fries
bottomless though?
I mean, if you pull out the wallet, they are. Then anything can be bottomless if you spend enough. But no, you can get them. It's got the seasoning on it that comes at the table, and it's a steak fry, and you throw them in your air fryer, regular fryer, however you want to do it. But they are available. But good seeing you, Peter. Thanks for joining us. But back to your story about the U.S. Open stuff, because again tonight, Indy 11. Miami FC at Michael A. Carroll Stadium. I will be there on the PA for that.
These are looking at the games here tonight on your screen. Obviously, we talked about Indy 11, right? They're playing against Miami FC. That game is 7:30 kick. FC Naples against Tampa Bay Rowdies. The game kicks off at 7 p.m. Detroit City hosting Westchester SC. You got Colorado Springs and the Switchbacks against One Knoxville SC. New Mexico United, El Paso Locomotive, FC Tulsa, Phoenix Rising, Sacramento Republic against El Farolito. That game is the one we talked about. That is the NPSL, versus the USL Championship. So that should be a very interesting matchup. Then Las Vegas Lights versus Chattanooga Red Wolves. Again, all those games kicking off either at 7:30, or 9:30 or 10:30. So there you go. Varying degrees of when those games might kick off.
So when we talked yesterday, and we were mentioning about just how watered down it's becoming, or I actually talked. It was funny. I talked to Adrian, my wife, about this yesterday, and she was asking, "Well, what do you think? Like, what are your true thoughts about it?" Because she knows I'm really, as much as I love the underdog story, John, I'm not always about it, and it's the fact that I guess there's a read the room situation with that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, when we're talking about, you were talking about offering up a bounty, whether it's $1 million or $150,000, however you want to look at it, for this champion to come out of this. As far as a fan base to see it, let's say here, Southern Indiana FC comes out of the UPSL and they make it to the championship game. Now, as good of a team they are, they're very good. They're very talented. They're 4-0 in their division right now, the Northern Kentucky, Southern Ohio, or Southern Indiana Conference. But if even their own fans could identify 1 to 2 players, does the rest of the soccer world want to see Southern Indiana FC versus, say, a Sacramento FC or an Indy 11 for that matter? Here, yeah, I mean, people in Indianapolis would love to see that, but would the surrounding 49 states want to see that? And
Well, they don't
same with
know.
Detroit. If Detroit was in the final, Michigan would love it, but would the other 49 states want to see it too? So I think that's a tough ship to navigate for the teams in there, and what they have to do to get viewership with the MLS teams as well who are in there, because you could see there was no MLS team in that bracket. At least if I'm right, if I could, unless I missed one, but it doesn't look like there was any MLS teams in that bracket. And I mean, so what do you do at that point? You know, how do you get the fan engagement to be there if it's not a team that has, I don't want to say certified superstars, but at least names of the brand?
Yeah, I mean, I think soccer's unlike obviously a lot of other sports when it comes to this, right? You're never going to see the new what is it, the this new UFL? Is it UFL? Is it called?
Which
What's this
one?
new the football league? The new like minor league, the one, the Rock. Is it called UFL? United Football
Oh
League.
yes, it's so
Like you're never going to see that the Michigan Panthers taking on the Lions in a tournament. Like it's never going to happen, right? Why? Because it'd be terrible. It'd be
that would be cool.
I guess. I mean,
Like,
but you know, and the reason why these games, and I always we talk about this a lot. Well, why is it that the NFL is selling out season tickets and college football stadiums across this country, but no one's going to come out to these UFL games because they're footballed out. Right? If you're going to tell me as a fan of football that I can go watch a football game in June, March, April, whatever, at half the price, I can go get that experience. That's great. But as a fan, I love going in, even though I hate crowds. I would much rather go into a crowded situation than an empty situation, right? I mean, if I want to go someplace, I want to be someplace where there's no fans. So there's a reason why these stadiums are empty. One is nobody. I'm not nobody, but football. We're out. We want to like watch football in the fall. It's like our thing, right? We want to watch high school football, college football, and professional football all from the fall, late summer, early fall, all the way through to February, and then we take our break. We go hibernate.
literally 5 days a week. 5
Yeah,
days a
I
week in the
mean,
fall.
so then you're gonna throw it to me in the summer too? I don't get that. Now, if you could take that same concept and make it happen during the fall, I think you'd get a lot more people to go to it, and I actually believe that. You know, because again, if you're talking about what can I do in the summer, well, go watch a Michigan Panthers in the UFL or go on vacation. I'm gonna go on vacation. Um, you know, so I think that that's one of the reasons about those areas. And again, you know, if you are a soccer fan in this country, a soccer fan, chances are you are a fan of the larger leagues that have typically have probably a much more notoriety, right? MLS, USL Championship, USL League One, and so you're a fan, and in your hometowns, you're rooting for your big teams, right? There are a lot of really small amateur teams around this country that are in your neighborhood, your community-based teams that, you know, they just don't have that same kind of pull. Now, I think we can all agree that we like an underdog story. But if you don't know who the underdog is, it kind of hurts the story mentality, right? It kind of does. I mean, again, last year, if you think about it, when Oak University beat Kentucky, everyone thought they were from Oakland, California,
Yep.
not from Michigan, right? There was some confusion there. And if you were to go ask 10 people right now who Oak University was, they'd probably say, where's it located? They'd all probably tell you it's in California someplace. You know, it maybe be 80% or 90% of that response. They don't know. But does it hurt the story? It doesn't hurt the story. It doesn't carry the same weight. I I want to see underdogs compete. I want to see underdogs win. Um, but if you don't know who the underdog is, you know, does that maybe hurt that story? I think it does on some level. I think it truly does. But with this U.S. Open Cup though, and way soccer is specifically is that if you know how if you're a really strong team, and I'm not talking about talent, I'm talking about a strong unit, right? You've been playing together for a long time. You know how to defend collectively. You know how to get out of pressure. You know how to, you have good goalkeeping, right? You have all these kind of things that, whatever. And you can sit back for 90 minutes, take your licks, and play the transitional game. You could make some noise, right? You could definitely, get yourself in a spot where you could be in a third, fourth round match like El Farolito is, right? But playing these teams straight up, there ain't no hope. You can't play these teams straight up. There's just no way. You're playing 8 behind the ball the entire game, playing a striker up top, playing like a 1-4-1, a 1-4-4-1 or something like that, or a 4-5-1, right? Variations of that. You're not playing a 4-3-3. You're not doing that. You know why? Because you're so vulnerable at that point. The counterattack will kill you. And so your game to watch though for me is the FC Naples versus Tampa. New head coach at Naples is the former Chicago House coach Matt Poland. Rooting for him. So, it's a good matchup. I want to put the results on from last night real quick before I forget. Here are the results from last night. Columbus Crew 2 fell yesterday to Pittsburgh Riverhounds, and that Columbus Crew 2 is actually in the MLS next, right? So
yes,
they're in that Columbus Crew. Louisville City FC, right? That's their ones. That's an MLS side. Right?
Oh, that was their one.
I believe so. I'd have to look back. Maybe they played in Louisville City Stadium when I was watching last night. I just want to double check to make sure I didn't make a mistake there when I said that. Let's see here. Oh no, USL Championship. My bad. So
okay.
But yeah. So I mean, that is. So they won their game last night. You've got Portland Hearts of Pine. They lost to Rhode Island. That game actually was pretty exciting game to watch there towards the end. A little bit of a mass confrontation as the game was coming to an end. North Carolina FC beating Charlotte Independence 3-1. Charleston Battery beating South Georgia Tormenta FC. South Georgia and Tormenta, they're in the USL League One. So they took care of business yesterday. Tacoma Defiance beating Oakland Roots. That was an interesting win for Tacoma. Again, Tacoma, is in the MLS Next Pro. Oakland Roots is in the USL Championship. So, again, that's a good there. AV Alta FC, it won in penalties last night.
PK, yeah.
County SC. Yeah. So, that's a look at that. I mean, again, USL League One beating USL Championship. And that's why I say like these USL League One versus USL Championship, what's the quote unquote separation between those two leagues? I mean, is there a huge separation between those two leagues? Because we talked about it yesterday. The separation between MLS and USL Championship is, I still believe, it's quite significant. And if I'm wrong, you can tell me.
You made the most valid point yesterday, was that with the Pro Rel coming for USL 1, all it is teams are just going to move up and just be designated in a different tier than they are now. And that really doesn't do anything, does it? I mean, it's almost so the way I look at that when I was contemplating everything with that yesterday was that, let's just say, well, let's take me as a PA announcer, right? So I did an NBA game for the Indiana Pacers 2 weeks ago, and that is the highest level of professional basketball in the world. Only 30 people get to sit in that chair in the entire world to PA announce for an NBA team. Now, you can't do 41, which is a home season, until you do one. But if I ever got the chance to do 41 games for whatever team, I'm a Cleveland guy. If it were for the Cavs, then dream job, whatever. But let's just say it was Indiana. How do I go above that? Like what's the next step? And then everything else is, well, it's the Indiana Pacers. What if you did it for the Knicks? Okay, it's New York. Now my cost of living gets more expensive and I got to move to the East Coast. Yes, it's a more recognizable team, but who's to say that I'm going to get any more money out of that? It's just lateral. There's nowhere else I can go. And I think that's what you said that you were alluding to with the USL 1 and the Pro Rel and then the USL Championship, is that's really what it is it not? I mean, are these guys going to get paid any more, or are these teams going to get paid any more to move up and do anything like that. So I mean, where's the separation there in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, so again, we talk the pro rel conversation is such a sexy conversation,
Ooh.
right? I mean, oh my God, it's so awesome, so awesome. You know, it's awesome. Oh my God, this is the greatest thing ever. Well, it's like the EPL now. It's great. Yeah, but be careful what you wish for. I mean, I remember last year the Midwest Premier League came out, and they're obviously an amateur league, and for the most part that's a fairly good league. I mean, I watch these leagues all the time. I've called these games. I've seen them in person. I've watched them on TV. I've called them. I've broadcast national championships. I mean, so I can tell you that the talent between the Midwest Premier League, the um, and UPSL and League for Clubs and the NPSL and the APSL and everywhere in between, there's not a significant difference in the talent. You want to know why? Because back when we were playing, when me and you were playing soccer, when I left high school, I went and played. I kept playing, and it was competitive. At that time, it was just like your Michigan Premier Soccer League. It was part of the United States Adult Amateur, whatever you want to call it, right? And you played, maybe some teams around Michigan. You never really traveled, right? And then somewhere in like the mid 2000s, like somewhere like 2007 to like 2012, like something exploded in this country, and I'm not sure what it was. I'm not sure what led to like this explosion of like competitive travel amateur soccer, but it did. Right? There used to be this thing where you come home from college as a college athlete and your college coaches wanted you to play in something to continue to stay competitive, right? And so that was born, right? We had that premier the PDL, right, which is the former which is now the USL League 2, right? PDL, USL League 2. That was always happening. That was something that was happening in the mid, 90s all the way to the whatever to when they became the USL League 2. That was like watching, again, that was semi-professional soccer. Um, we have this thing now called Pathway to Pro, the pro pathway, right? And what does that even mean, right? Well, because everyone wants to call it, well, it's semi-professional sounds way sexier, by the way, than amateur, right? We just use different words to describe things, even though that's what it is, right? 90% of these players are not getting paid. Again, we talked about it before. In the UPSL and Midwest Premier League and maybe even some of these situations, players are in fact maybe getting some money from a team to play. That's more under the table kind of stuff. That's not actually a legitimate like thing. But it happens, right? And so the pathway to pro, the semi-professional player, right? That's what we use to describe these players now. When it was used to be like, yeah, I'm just playing soccer on a Saturday night with my friends. Detroit City FC started that way. It started off as a team of friends, and it just manifested into this crazy, unbelievable product today that you just can't replicate. This idea that pro relegation is going to be something that's super duper awesome, to be fair, is a falsity. That's even a word. Fair, yeah, I don't know if that's even a word, but it's false.
Sounded good. Sounded good.
It's not. It's not going to be great. It's not. As I mentioned, the Midwest Premier League, an amateur league, semi-professional league, they created pro relegation too this past year in whatever it was in some conference in the Heartland, where they can have two divisions and you win, you go up. Okay. What does that even mean? I mean, okay. Great. Everyone got excited about it. Yay, way. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna offer, pro relegation. Great. What does that even mean? I mean, what, you take a team that's in the second division? First of all, why are they even in the second division? And who picked them to put in the second division? Who was in the first division? Why were they in the first division? Right? I mean, like, okay. And then so what does it even mean? You're gonna get a bump? I mean, when I was coaching it in the OAA, you could be promoted and relegated into different divisions based on how you played. So the top two teams or top one team could go up to a division, the bottom team could go down. But it always came down to the final meeting when someone said, hey, John, do you want your team to move up? If I said no, then the team that lost and was finished last in the up league didn't go anywhere. right? I mean, I understand we like this idea of pro relegation. I get it. Again, it sounds sexy. It sounds fantastic. It sounds great. But what does it mean? And is it right for soccer in this country? I would argue it's not. I would argue it's not right for soccer in this country. I would argue that you're going to, and that's why I was talking about this yesterday. Is like we as a society, we put a lot of stake, in materialistic things, a lot of stake in it. Other countries don't do that. Other countries, right? I mean, in the UK, you don't in Italy, in Europe, you don't tip, right? You go to a restaurant, there's no tipping. Their staff are just, there's no tipping there, right? You, the lifestyles, things that we are accustomed to. They don't have those kind of same lifestyles. I'm not saying people have money and that kind of stuff, but it's a different world in other countries. We're very materialistic as a society. We really are. And so now you're going to take this team that's worth $100 million and they lose their season, and now they're going to drop down to a Division Two, and now this team that was in Division One, or whatever, the second division is going to come on up, and they have a stadium of 13,000 compared to the 27,000 stadium of the MLS team, and now all of a sudden, like, that's going to work. It's and then the league, and then I know in Europe that the league actually helps compensate teams for this move, right? So if you're a lower division team, you get a bunch of money to help you make that move. I don't believe the MLS brings in that kind of money. I don't believe that the USL Championship or these leagues are bringing in the kind of money to support an entire organization like that. Look what happened to Nisa. That entire league is falling apart because the league was supporting all the teams.
Good example. Great example.
They fell apart. I mean, all the teams were being supported by the league. It couldn't do it anymore. Like, all the games last year that were being canceled was because the league was having to pay the bill to send players to travel. It was easier to cancel the game. And, I get it. I think that people wanting to this idea of pro relegation. I think in concept it sounds fantastic, but in reality it's going to be a shit show. It won't work. And if I'm wrong, I'll sit here on a show here in 3 years and say, yeah, I was wrong, But you're going to see teams go bankrupt. You're going to see teams taking, and not going to be able to pull this thing off. You're going to see a lot of things happen because of this situation.
John, how much do you think that has to do with just the namesake of what goes on across the pond in Europe, mostly with the Champions League and Premier League and all that kind of stuff? Taking it back to several years ago so take American football here. There's not a team that could be built in any country if you took the best 22 players of any country that would even come remotely close to beating an NFL team, a regular NFL team. You could take the Pro Bowlers from the NFL, but if you went to any, whether it be Italy, Australia, Japan, South America, Canada, Russia for that matter, just anywhere, there's no 22 people you could put on a field that could beat an NFL team, and they'd get slaughtered. But the NFL tries to flex its muscle, as they do with a few games in Germany. The Browns played there last year, and then they have the one in London, and then they play down in Mexico, and they sell out those games. But that's such a novelty thing. It's like, okay, we watch soccer from, as you mentioned, from January till whenever, but we need to break it up. So we'll go to Old Trafford to watch the Giants and the Jaguars. Ooh, there's a stunning matchup in the NFL for everybody here. But to them, it's American football. It's something new. But remember a few years ago, they tried NFL Europe. And how fast did that dissolve? They tried to take the name of the NFL, put people that were somewhat good at the sport, which they don't know because they don't play it competitively anywhere, and tried to run with the name. Do you think that's what soccer here is trying to do? That they're taking your Arsenals, your Juventus, your Munichs, all these kind of teams that just stand out and would smoke anybody on this soil and say, oh, well, now we have this part of it, so we're kind of like them, so it's going to be like them. And do you think that might be the same concept that they're looking at with this?
No, I think that they're listening to the fans who don't know anything. It's, right? I mean, we're
So
listening
yes.
to
So yes.
yeah, I mean, yeah. So I mean, because all these, you know, I'm not, and I don't want to be disingenuous to fans, but the soccer fan today is a different fan than it was yesterday. And the reason why I say that is that it's almost like these micro breweries that have all kind of popped up, right? These micro brews, right? And these new hip kind of restaurants, right? It's like
Gastropub.
Gastropub, right? All these things that are kind of coming up. It's because the new generation of consumer is it's like we're like a bunch of hipsters, and we're all trying to fit into this kind of this new mold. And our fans, I talk about this a lot with Detroit City FC fans. Like if you look at the Northern Guard and their fan base, their supporter group, and maybe it's the same thing in Indy 11. It looks like all these fans had never played soccer or been a part of soccer in their entire life, but they just kind of gravitated towards this environment. And that there's nothing wrong with that, because it's really cool to see. But how many of the fans today are fans in these stands that actually grew up playing soccer, understand soccer, love soccer, or just became, because like the new hip thing is to be in a supporter group, you know, for your local team. And I think that actually on some level, that actually is more appealing than the game itself. So I would argue that the fan out there today who is a supporter of an MLS team or a USL championship team or even that local community-based team might not be totally in love with the game, but in love with the environment that the game gives them, right? And that is what they are in love with. And if you were to ask them, 10 of them, to explain a law of the game, explain a formation, they probably couldn't do it, right? Because they didn't necessarily play. I don't know the makeup of these supporter groups, but that'd be my guess. But then all these supporter groups who are fans of these teams are the ones who are rooting for the pro relegation. You know, they're rooting for it. They want it. Why do they want it? Because across the pond, when they're watching Premier games on a Saturday morning at 9 a.m., because let's be honest, those games take place on Saturday and Sundays at 9, 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, right? Yep. And our MLS games don't kick off until 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, right? So yep. You've got soccer all day on Saturday and Sunday if you want to watch soccer games. And you can get your dose of Premier League and then get your dose of MLS. And they're seeing, you know, Old Trafford, they're seeing Chelsea, they're seeing these teams, they're hearing about Wrexham, right? Oh my God, Wrexham is in this lower division. They're working their way up. Oh my God, that's awesome. Why can't our local team do the exact same thing? Why can't they? Why? Well, if you really understand the Wrexham story, Wrexham was like literally bankrupt. They were dying. They were in the lowest division. They were struggling. They somehow Ryan Reynolds and I forget the guy's name from Philadelphia, whatever it's Sunnyside in Philadelphia.
It's always sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah, like they somehow come in and they swoop in and they do everything and they put all this star power behind it, and now they injected some cash, you know, into the thing, and here we go. But that team was struggling. They couldn't make any. They were beyond struggling, and so I just hang on here. Let's take it here. I got a comment here. I would not say that, John. The nations you mentioned have rugby, and those players have toughness and grit. They will place the NFL players. He's talking about your comment in regards to football.
I'm going, now, Peter, I love you. I'm going to disagree because there are several rugby players in the NFL who have had outstanding careers in Australia, playing Australian football, rugby, Gaelic football. And those players are on special teams and their job is to run down and try to hit somebody as hard as they can. They don't understand the ins and outs of, as John mentioned, in soccer formations, a red cover 2, a bulldog defense, you know, hitting the A gap, stuff like that. So it's a great point that the toughness and grit, yes, but toughness and grit, as much as it's a great thing, in my eyes, will never beat talent, just straight talent. If you're good at something and you're working at it consistently, yes, you have those 5 can't beat 1, as Nate said yesterday, or 5 always beats 1. You can't. It's a size thing. You can be a great rugby player and say, I'm going to go up against an Aiden Hutchinson. John referenced for you. I'm going to go up against a Myles Garrett. It was like what you mentioned with your son yesterday. What are you going to do as a cornerback when you've got 260 running down your neck, built like a brick, and puts his head down? What are you going to do? So it's just a pure talent and size thing, and being groomed to play the NFL. The NFL has the best athletes in the world, hands down. Conditioning wise, it's the guys playing soccer across the pond. Hand-eye coordination, some of your better hitters in baseball. But when it comes to athletes, NFL football players are the best athletes on the planet, in my opinion. So that's my comment for Peter. It's a great comment, and it makes so much sense. But that's my kind of counter to that.
Well, and again, there's a lot of talented players out there in all sports, but talent is something that you can measure, certainly. But I'll give you an example, and I've said this before on this show, but you take a player who plays at ECNL or MLS Next, right, or MLS, Next Academies, things like that. You take those two players, put them on the field together, right, in the same position, right, and you put them under pressure, right. Those players will handle pressure differently, right? Both of them will. One is dealing with pressure in a different. They're both dealing with pressure, but one's dealing with a very different pressure, right? You do the same thing with an ECNL player versus that of a player who's just playing maybe in the NALs or the these new kind of regional leagues that are available, right? That are kind of like your B teams, right? The decision making that takes place, the how you handle pressure, you can be very good with the ball. But the second I add pressure, right, I can pass the ball without any pressure. But the second you throw someone coming at me at full pace, and I have to make a decision, right, where I see a player, right, in front of me to my left, but I see a player running at me, and I have to make that pass. How do I make that pass under pressure? What's my decision making look like? The decision making process at the higher levels, the ones where you've been experiencing it for years, those decision making, they become second nature, and it's almost like you're watching a player, like the thought process going through their brain at the lower level of the experience, whatever you want to call hierarchy, right? You can see it. You can see the wheels kind of spinning as they're trying to do it, right? And they force a bad pass. They make a bad decision. They make a technical error, right? These are all things that happen when you start putting pressure into situations. And so that's why when you're talking about the NFL and teams and players from around the world, well, the greatest players, and we're not talking about linemen, okay? Linemen is a different scenario. Linemen, if you are big and strong and can move, you can learn this. We've seen this time and time again, okay? We talk about the specialty positions, okay? Tight end, running back, quarterback, wide receiver, cornerbacks, right? Your defensive backs, right? Those your linebackers, those roles, you have to be extremely intelligent at the game, like extremely. You can be fast.
Can I throw defensive end in there though?
Yes, defensive ends. But again, we're seeing players who, even on the Lions, what's his name? Sewell, Penei Sewell.
Yeah.
I don't think he played a single lick in college, if I'm not mistaken. I think did he play in college? I don't think he played
UCLA.
in college.
UCLA.
But played like 1 year though, right? It was like 1
year.
And
he got hurt. Yeah.
And so, but he came. So a player, if you are big, strong, and talented, there are anomalies in this. But traditionally, you've had to have gone through a long, storied kind of path, right? You start in high school, maybe you're Pee-wee, high school, college, NFL, right? There are some outliers in there, but that's it. You don't typically. Matt Turner is an exception in the U.S. men's national team. Matt Turner is a guy that did not play at a youth level. Maybe played a minute or two. I mean, his pathway to the U.S. men's national team is quite interesting. He did not participate, in youth soccer. he came about it kind of like as a later part of high school, and then into his and got into, it's just weird. It's a weird pathway. It's not your normal pathway, and people would argue that he's not prepared for it. I mean, I could argue one way or the other, but this game, this sport, when it comes to soccer, there's a level of smarts, not street smarts, not common sense smarts, but intelligence in regards to how this game is played. And you can learn that in two ways: experience on the field and in the classroom, right? In where you're watching yourself, you're looking at videos, you're critiquing, you're going through all this, and you're understanding it, right? But the most important one is being on the field. And being on the field in high pressure situations where each and every game you are being challenged. All right. And that is the only way that you can grow. And it was one of the biggest challenges of my life as a coach, where I'm looking at players and I'm seeing the decision making that these decisions that they're making. I'm watching them in real time against teams that were better, and they are like 3 and 4 steps behind the other team, right? And how do you solve that problem? How do you solve it? A U.S. men's national team is 3 or 4 steps behind every other country, right? Let's just put that out there. That's what they are. They're behind every other country 3 or 4 steps. Their decision making, their technical abilities, their tactical awareness, all these things, they are behind. That is why they can't win on a consistent basis against really, really good teams, because they're behind the 8 ball, because they're not prepared, because they haven't been playing at that level. They haven't been playing against those players their entire life. Like if you took all of our players and put them over in England for their entire life, right? And they played there their entire life, they would go through those challenges with their counterparts. And eventually they would get to the point where they could manage themselves and be in that environment. But they're not getting that here. That, again, we're taking, okay, the best players in the United States are playing against each other, but are they good enough to the players, their counterparts across the pond? They are not. So as long as that's the case, we will always be a step or two behind them, right? And then if you take the fact that we are all a bunch of, prima donnas, and we're all, paying buku dollars, and whoever has the most money will get you to the promised land. That also is a factor in all this, right? So to go back to Peter's comment about rugby, NFL football and all that, be that as it may, that is a very physical, demanding sport that requires intellect at the highest positions. And yes, you can be big and strong, but we've seen big and strong, and they don't work out. Especially, we've seen it time and time again. Well, why is that? Because, they maybe lacked the intellect, they lacked the awareness, they lacked whatever. And then, if we look at soccer, it's this lack of being around the highest level of player all the time. And yes, our MLS Next players and playing in those academies are significantly better than that of other teams. But are they better than, or are they equal to players across the pond? And I would say no, they're not. A comment coming in here is, I just have respect for the soccer player in general when their average lifespan career-wise is longer in soccer than any other sport. Better in fitness, 90 minutes than American football. I might be wrong. My says I am. Yeah, I think you can play longer for soccer for sure, but at what level? And how high of a level? I guess that all depends. Yeah, I think we're seeing players who can play into their late 30s. I think Brad Guzan is might be in his 40s. The goalkeeper for Atlanta United. I think he's in his 40s. I have to Google that, but
well, on a fitness level, that's not even a question. But then you look at the
he's 40 years old, so there you go.
You look at the physicality level between the NFL and soccer. We see when soccer players fall on the pitch after an egregious foul. The Academy Award goes to so-and-so for what happened. It looks like they took a right hand from Mike Tyson in his prime when they get tripped up by their own shoelaces. In the NFL, it's 60 minutes. It's not continuous, but it's 60 minutes of going up against guys equal and or bigger than you, taking a pounding. That's why the lifespan of the running back is so short. And, look at a guy, you got, in my opinion, John, and it's a toss up between the two best running backs of all time are respectively, ironically, from Detroit and Cleveland, Jim Brown and Barry Sanders. And it's amazing the amount that Barry Sanders rushing yards that he lost during his career. If he had not lost those to fast, quick, intelligent linemen, linebackers, cornerbacks, everything like that, he would be the NFL's all-time rushing leader. Can you believe that? Just on the amount of yards lost. And he played a shortened career because he was just tired. He was just tired of it. He's just like, I can't do this anymore. It's not fun. It's taking a toll on my body. We're not winning. And I'm done. But that's the toll. He played 10 years, is arguably in the top 3 of running backs of all time. And I don't even think we saw the best of Barry Sanders because he didn't have those surrounding parts around him. A great line, a good quarterback. I mean, it's hard to recognize a quarterback who was with Barry Sanders. I think he had 2, 3, 4 of them during his short career. So I think that in itself is a testament to the athletic part and what these guys have to go through every Sunday. That's why they play only once a week. In all honesty, soccer, you could probably play 2, 3 times a week realistically, because you are running. Go back to the track thing with your son. You can run forever. People run for 26 miles in marathons. But football, I mean, John, I don't know if you ever played football, but I mean, when you're done, man, it's ice bath or break for you because it's so grueling.
No, it's true. You know, it's a grueling sport, and that's why players retire after 3 seasons in some cases, right? And because it's such a brutal sport, and soccer is not that same brutality, and that in itself lies the problem too with our fans in this country is that people like seeing people get hit. I mean, and people like seeing. I mean, let's be honest. If you're going to a race, if you're a NASCAR fan, I think the speed is great, but I actually think the part where there might be a collision is just as appealing. You know, I obviously don't want anyone to get hurt, but there's like this, you know, this opportunity where there's a bunch of chaos can happen, and you know, oh my goodness gracious, right? I mean, let's be honest, we live in a world today where you grab your phone and we're taking videos of stuff like if someone's getting hurt into a fight, we're like, woo, you know, it's like
that's right. You got to watch instead of breaking it up like a civil human being and trying to do that.
We're all grabbing our phones and taking videos.
Unbelievable,
of it. I mean,
man.
Yeah, so it's we want to see that we can all maybe I'm saying something that's everyone else is not willing to say, but I'm telling you that's I mean we're all those bad hits from the 90s, man, the early 2000s, watching John Kitna get just rocked. You know, watching these, you know, the Chris Berman, you know, the whoop, you know, and just, you know, all that got people really excited to watch football games. And I think that's probably one of the bigger reasons why we're seeing a lot of people getting kickback to the NFL is because they're trying to protect players more now because this pressure that's come from them, not from society, but from like the government and like probably insurance companies, you know, that you know. But if you ask the player, they're like, no, I want to go get hit, man. I want to go hit someone. Like they don't, they might complain after the fact, but I think they know what they're signing up for, you know, and it's, we're the ones. So, but soccer is a different animal altogether. And as I would tell anybody, you know, if you're a fan of this game, you know, understand the game for what it is. Try to grasp it, right? This pro relegation idea, it sounds great. And again, if I'm wrong, I'll admit it. But I just don't see how this could work in this country on any level. To the point where you're going to see what you see across the pond. Yeah, we'll have our own variation of it, sure. And maybe it does work. Maybe it does play out and people will feel really happy about it. But what's next? You know, what's the next thing that we do? You know, what's the next sexy thing that we try to pull off when it comes to the game of soccer in this country? I think this U.S. Open Cup thing is fantastic. I think it's great. I think that, you know, the MLS teams rolling in the round of 32, you know, I think that sounds all fine and dandy. You know, having all these other teams, amateur teams trying to play for it. But if it doesn't mean anything to these teams, they shouldn't be in it. They just shouldn't be in it. And I talked about that yesterday on this show. I'll keep saying it. You got to find a way to make this exciting, and what you're seeing in these games that are happening in the third round and in the first round, the second round, right? Those games, they matter to these teams playing. But as you go down the way, when we get an MLS team in, will it matter as much to them as it does to the team they're playing against? And that's the problem I have with this, because then the underdog, is it really truly an underdog story if that team beats that MLS team, right? We saw it many years ago with Columbus Crew coming into Detroit and Detroit City FC, beating them, right? Did that mean anything to Detroit City? You're damn right it did. But did the loss mean anything to the MLS team? I mean, it probably does on some level, but because they don't
at the moment.
But
at the moment, it does, but they're not reflecting on it.
We're gonna get back to it. We got our game. We're gonna go back to it. So
right.
We are over again, so I do apologize for that. But you've been watching Inside the Game here with me and John Natale here. Nathan Wenger took the day off to go do some baseball, but we'll forgive him for that. But we appreciate you stopping by nonetheless. Hit that subscribe button, like us, and share us with your friends and family. Don't forget, again, we will be fully announcing this here probably later today. My Game, My Story will be available here hopefully this afternoon, if not tomorrow, where you can start sharing your story with us and sharing your passion for the game, whether you're a player, whether you're a fan, whether you're a coach or a referee, or even a parent for that matter. Share your story and have a great day. I'll be back here tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Eastern, right here on the National Soccer Network. I'm John the Turner alongside John Natale. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. I'll be back at this here tomorrow morning, same time, same place. This has been a presentation of the National Soccer Network.